Shakespeare, the greatest language player there ever was, you see. So that follows on very nicely from the other topic. What did Shakespeare do? He taught us to dare with language. He taught us to play with language more than any other author has ever done. If Shakespeare, remember, writing at a time when the vocabulary was not very large, about 150,000 words in the English of Shakespeare's day, well over 1 million words in English these days. And so if he encountered the need for a word, he would make one up. And there was nobody around to say you were wrong to do that. There were no dictionaries, after all. The first dictionary of English, a tiny little thing, didn't appear until 1604, halfway through Shakespeare's career. And so he would make one up. If he says in a particular line, I want to use the word vast, as he does at the beginning of Henry V, when the chorus comes to the front of the stage and says and apologizes for the fact that we are terrible, we're only a few actors and we've got to, on this pathetic stage, do the Battle of Agincourt. And he says, can this cockpit hold the vasty fields of France? Can this cockpit, meaning the theatre, hold the vasty fields of France? What does vasty mean? V-A-S-T-Y. He means vast. That's all. Why didn't he use the word vast? He could have done, because the rhythm of his line required a different word. It was that famous iambic pentameter rhythm, the tum-ti-tum-ti-tum-ti-tum-ti-tum. Can this cockpit hold the vast fields? Oh no. Can this cockpit hold the vasty fields of France? Yes. So he invents the word. He doesn't ask permission, he just does it. And he does that hundreds and hundreds of times. So, shout, I unshout. Curse, I uncurse. Lady Macbeth asks the gods to unsex me here, meaning take away my feminine qualities because I'm going to do something very evil. Unsex. Today we do the same thing, if you dare. Just been to a Chinese restaurant. Wasn't very nice. It was very un-Chinesey. Un-Chinesey. You know what I mean. You won't find un-Chinesey in any English dictionary. But that's colloquial English for you. Unpoliceman-like behavior. You won't find unpoliceman-like anywhere. Shakespeare teaches us to do this sort of thing. Now, what will I be doing for the anniversaries? 2 big anniversaries coming up. Next year, the anniversary of his birth in 1564, and 2 years later, in 16, the anniversary of his death. Well, the Shakespeare industry has gone ballistic. Everybody is doing something, and I'm no exception. My son Ben is an actor, very much a Shakespearean actor. He's got his own company. We've written books together. We're doing a Shakespeare book for schools, which will be out in 2015. But the interesting one is going to appear at the end of that year in time for the big anniversary in 2016. And this is a dictionary of Shakespearean pronunciation. Now, whenever you hear Shakespeare, you hear it in modern English, don't you? You hear it in RP or American English or whatever it is. What we don't do, ever, is hear it in the accent that would have been used in Shakespeare's time. Now, over the last 10 years, a movement has grown up, mainly in Britain, but now in America and around the world, where people have reconstructed, using the techniques of historical phonology, to work out how the accent would have been in Shakespeare's time. And they've put on plays in the original accent. Shakespeare's Globe in London in 2004 put on Romeo and Juliet in original pronunciation. I worked with the company. I worked out the system and I taught it to the company. And then in 2005 they did Troilus and Cressida in original pronunciation. And since then, about a dozen plays of Shakespeare around the world and all the sonnets have been done in OP, as it's called, original pronunciation, OP. I'll give you an example in just a second, but if you want to hear more, you can go to the websites that are out there now, www.originalpronunciation.com or www. What's it called? Shakespeare's pronunciation. Sorry, thank you, Hilary. PronouncingShakespeare.com. I can never remember the names of my own websites. And these are places where you'll hear lots of examples. Let me give you an example of this kind of accent. And you tell me whether you find it intelligible or not. You might be thinking, I'll never understand it. It's 400 years old. It must sound very different. Well, let me give it you first of all in modern English. That chorus introduction to Henry V. It goes like this. Oh, for a muse of fire that would ascend the brightest heaven of invention, a kingdom for a stage, princes to act, and monarchs to behold the swelling scene. Then should the warlike Harold, like himself, assume the port of Mars, and at his heels, leashed in like hounds, should famine, sword, and fire crouch for employment. All right, I mean, some of the words are slightly unfamiliar, but I guess you understood that pretty well. Here it would be in OP. Oh, for a muse of fire that would ascend the brightest heaven of invention. A kingdom for a stage, princes to act, and monarchs to behold the swelling scene. Then should the warlike Harry, like himself, assume the port of Mars, and at his heels, lashed in like hounds, should famine, sword, and fire crouch for employment. Now, it's an interesting accent, isn't it? You understand it, I guess. It's just like a regional accent of some sort, but no modern English accent is exactly like that. Modern English accents have echoes of it, the R after the vowel. You'll hear that in the west of England a lot, and of course in America too. But no modern English accent says for the word invention, invention, with that T-I-O-N ending sounding out like that, or musician, pronounced musician, or salvation, pronounced salvation. So there are lots of very distinctive differences. And when you hear that accent, you suddenly realize things come alive. Rhymes that don't work in modern English suddenly rhyme. You must have noticed this. If you studied Shakespeare, some of the Shakespeare sonnets, for instance, all about love. And what does Shakespeare rhyme with the word love? Move and prove. Well, they don't rhyme. Not in modern English. But in Shakespeare's time they did. Now, which way was it? Was it love and move? Or move and loove? Which was it? Now you have to do a bit of research. And you dig and dig and dig, and you find people at the time writing and saying the vowel in a word like love is short, just like the vowel in words like muv and pruv, you see. And so you work it all out using the rhymes and the puns and the spellings to work out how it was, and you produce an accent of the sort that I've given you. Now, because OP is such a popular movement these days, they need a dictionary to help them do the pronunciation work themselves. I can't be around the world teaching all the Shakespeare actors how to produce OP. There's only one of me. And there are very few linguists actually who do this kind of thing. So they've got to do it for themselves, a bit like teachers have to do with global English and so on. So the dictionary is coming out at the end of 2015, and that I hope will help develop this OP movement a bit further.